Last week, Thursday, was Mental Health Day, World Mental Health Day. It's a day dedicated to making everybody aware of how important it is to pay attention to our brain's thoughts and activity, to mental health on a whole. Needed in Jamaica, especially where we often sweep this matter under the rug for older folk and especially for children. Sometimes there are issues we identify with our children. They're not paying attention in class, they're acting out. People say, oh, them bad, them this, them ray. But there are other issues at play, and here to help us catch up, especially in terms of mental health in the early stages, Dr. Patrice Charles of the Phoenix Counseling Center. Good morning to you. Thank you for being here.
Thank you.
I'm so glad that we're talking about mental health and that we are talking more about mental health as a people, to the point where I saw a lot of corporates getting involved on World Mental Health Day to send messages out, lots of dialogue in social media as well. So we're talking about it in adults, but as far as the kids are concerned, are we having that dialogue?
We're having the dialogue now, especially if you consider what's happening at Ministry of Health and Ministry of Education. Ministry of Education's new school improvement plan involves looking at the mental well-being of students. Because oftentimes when a child is challenged in the classroom or acts, display some form of behavior challenge, it's really because there is a problem that's taking place at home, or they're not connecting to the teacher as far as their learning style is concerned. So really looking into their mental well-being, not necessarily that they have a mental illness or that they're ill, so but perhaps that's something that parents need to look at. How can they improve the mental well-being of their child versus, just saying, okay, he has a mental illness. So
that's the distinction I would actually like us to make. So when we talk about mental illness, what are we talking about? When we talk about mental health, what are we talking about?
You see, oftentimes when we say mental illness, there's a stigma attached to it. And that's why I don't really like using the term mental illness, because of that stigma, which is what Ministry of Health had spoken about,
so
the stigma attached
people
to it.
Just mad.
So no one wants to take their child to a psychologist or a psychiatrist because they're afraid of, perhaps what the stigma would be attached to them, their family. But when you speak about the mental well-being of a child, then you can, it's more of a positive term, and it's not necessary that your child is ill or sick, but because that there are things, simple things that you can do, create a different type of structure around that child that can improve that mental well-being, improve their thinking skills, improve their social skills to make them better able to relate not only to others, but also to themselves.
And that's not only something you have to do if you see signs in your child, you can do it proactively to ensure that the child is in good mental state. So let's look at some of the warning signs that, we may need to have a chat with somebody like yourself about our kids' mental well-being. And we're going to start with mood changes.
Well, you can look at mood changes, whether your child, and everything is extreme. So from one extreme to the other. So if your child just suddenly feels sad all the time, and let's look at that feeling, that mood swing for at least 2 weeks. Because, you have good days, you have bad days. Something happened at school, I'm in a bad mood. We're not talking about the one-off. We're talking about
Sustained.
2 weeks consistent mood swings. 2 weeks of being sad, 2 weeks of being extremely angry and irritable. And that's also something that parents need to recognize. Depression in children, especially teenagers, especially teenage boys, very different than in adults.
Manifests differently.
Right, it does. Adults will get sad, they'll withdraw, they want to be alone. Children, they become very irritable, display anger. What teachers would say, give a lot of trouble in the classroom, and that could be because there's something happening and that child is unable to, kind of relate to the emotion that they're experiencing, and so that's how they demonstrate their depression.
So look for extreme mood changes, intense feelings, that's
and
part
behavior.
Of the anger,
so mood and behavior.
Yes.
So I'm sad, so I withdraw from family. I don't want to speak to anyone. I don't want to go to school. I don't want to go to church. So any drastic change in mood or behavior is something you want to look out for. and also
intense, so that ties into the intense feelings, because that
yes.
will manifest whatever that mood is. It will manifest in a certain type of
right. So mood is
behavior.
it would be the feelings.
Right.
The mood change would be any type of emotional feeling, anything drastic changes in their emotions. Behavior change is what they're doing, their actions.
So if fight and
exactly,
yeah.
and even at home, you can see if they're constantly fighting with their siblings, or if they're speaking back in a disrespectful way to their parents now, that's something that they never used to do, or just wanting to stay in their room. If they're eating changes. Yeah. If their sleeping habits, right, if their sleeping habits changes. Now, one of the things that I'm seeing, especially in the girls, is their eating habits. You know, social media has a lot of influence on our children, a lot more than parents, I think, really realize. And so a lot of these teenage girls try to keep up with what they are seeing on social media.
Equating themselves with the beauty they see, so they stop eating, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, man, I know.
But then you also have those that do the comfort eating.
Yeah. Oh gosh.
Right. So you have that, and then if you really have to pay attention to your child, because there are some children that harm themselves. So self-harm, look for cutting or burning. Again, something that unfortunately I've seen one too many times in the counseling center.
Yeah. Gosh, it was hard. It was hard in our day. Rough and over the social media. I mean, just to keep up. Yeah. We have to go, Doc, but there's unexplained weight loss. She mentioned that.
Right.
Physical symptoms. She talks about that as well. Physical harm and substance abuse.
Yes, and the new thing that's out now, vaping.
That's not
and that is really doing some serious damage to our children that they're not even. I don't think parents really realize how easy it is for them to access.
We had some folks here last week who had just confiscated like 3 or 4 from a school,
and they look like drum
drives.
Yes. Yeah. The charger for the vape for was it Juul? Yeah. It looks just like a thumb drive.
Thumb drive. They just go in the bathroom and then they mash up them lungs and mash up them mints. Where do we find you?
I am at 10.5 Lady Musgrave Road, which is right across the street from Spartan's Health Club.
Okay. So guys, if your kids are experiencing issues, especially if you know that there's something that's going on at home that has changed, that would perhaps affect their mental health, then please proactively or reactively, or whenever, just do it. Find someone they can talk to and see if we can all collectively work to preserve the mental health of our kids. It makes for a better nation, I'm telling you. Chief Executive Officer of the Phoenix Counseling Center, Dr. Patrice Charles.